What's happening, everyone? John Hendricks here for Boot Crew Media, coming at you with another episode of The Drive, presented by Royal Honda. It's Wednesday. We got our first injury report of the season for Week 1's matchup against the Falcons. And for the Saints, some great news, some not so great news. Let's get into it. 9 players were on the report today. You had 4 people that were limited, and you had 5 that did not practice. So of those that didn't practice, Traquan Smith was one of the first ones that popped up on there. He's actually dealing with a groin injury, so a little bit surprising because, he was spotted a little bit at practice on the early goings. Didn't look like he was wearing any type of sling or anything for that shoulder, but it is a groin is officially what the team's calling it. So he was not practicing today. Dwayne Washington was also not practicing with a hamstring injury. Paulson Adebo is the big one, ankle injury. Look, we talked to him last week. He feels a little bit, kind of that he feels like he could probably be there, but obviously he's happy with the progress that he makes. It has been making, so that's something that we got to keep an eye on. Landon Young was on there for a hip injury, and then Tanner Owen with a illness today. So not ideal, you could say, particularly for Paulson Adebo. And so him being out of lineup would be less than ideal. I still think there's a real good chance that he could play this weekend. Obviously, I don't think this is a situation where they have to run him in there because, these guys play injured a pretty good bit, but that's something that we'll obviously keep an eye out on. I would expect Marshawn Lattimore to probably match up against Drake London, assuming that he plays. You got Kyle Pitts, you got some other weapons that the Falcons are going to try to use. So that's something to pay attention to. But obviously shifting gears to the very positive news, let's start with kind of the limited guys for today. You had Eric Mccoy on there. That's one that we got to keep an eye on there. He's got a calf injury. He was participating in practice, but listed as limited officially. Pete Warner with that groin injury, he was limited. JT Gray also with a hamstring injury. Seems like that's been kind of a common theme right now. But obviously the big news of the day is Michael Thomas returning to practice. He was officially listed as limited on the injury report. He looked great, moved great. I think, obviously, speaking to him after in the locker room, very optimistic. Dennis Allen was a little bit noncommittal, didn't want to tip his hand and say anything. Obviously, he's pleased with the progress that Michael Thomas is making. But when asked if he was going to play this weekend, he said, "We'll see." Michael Thomas, again, another same boat, but it seems like Michael Thomas is a guy that cannot wait to get back on the field. We'll see how he continues to progress throughout the week. But, again, first injury report, 9 players on it. The health, we talked about it. It was kind of trending upwards for this team. Some good encouraging things. James Hurst, obviously being in full, feels 100%. That's great news. Mark Ingram had been kind of missing a little bit, but we've seen him in the locker room and such. He's back at full strength in practice. So, again, there's going to be a lot of those players that you kind of just have to pay attention to. Week 1, you got an 18-week games or 17-game season. So you definitely, especially with the late bye the Saints have right now, this is an area where Matt Rhea has really got to come in handy for sure with these soft tissue injuries and just kind of making sure that these guys are ready to go when they hit the field on Sunday. As always, this is just the first of 3 injury reports that we'll get. You'll have tomorrow's on Thursday, and obviously Friday is the final injury report with game designations. That'll be something really interesting to see. But look, we're rolling into the weekend. We'll be out there in Atlanta covering the game for you. So be sure to keep tuned to Boot Crew Media. I'm John Hendricks. Keep up with all my written work at Saints News Network at saints.media. And thanks again to Royal Honda for producing today's show. Thanks, guys. Have a good day.